Well, hello, good day. Give some time because I thought I had started and I actually hadn't started, so I'm ahead of schedule a little bit. So let's see, I'll wait for the first person to say hello. Oh, there's a couple watching already. Okay. And then we'll get started. There we go. Oh, good day, CJ. How are you? Sister Jeannie, good day. Good to see you guys, gals. All right, so we're going to get started with Good Day Rising prayers. Very interesting topic. We're going to continue on with Give Yourself Credit. And we'll talk about that. We were talking about the accounting, how they changed the accounting, and how they were setting up this whole new system of commerce and accounting. And it completely threw the people off in 1933. Well, 1913 to 1933. And what we have finally figured out about it. All right, so let's get started with the Good Day Rising prayers. We got a surprise little couple of inches of snow this morning, but it's really beautiful out. All right, let's get started. In nomine Dei, matronam nostra, Deum Iesum Christum, et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Let us place ourselves in the presence of the Most Holy Trinity, and in Catholic contemplation humbly venerate the Divine Family. Most Holy and Venerable Trinity, one Divine Family, I believe that Thou art here present. I venerate Thee with the deepest humility. I render to Thee with my whole heart the homage which is due to Thee. O Most Holy Trinity, I firmly believe that Thou art one Divine Being in three Divine Beings. Deum matronam nostra, Deum Iesum Christum, et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. And relying on Thine infinite goodness and promises, I hope to obtain the pardon of my sins, the help of Thy grace, and life everlasting, through the merits of Deum Iesum Christum et Deum matronam nostrae. O Most Holy Trinity, I love Thee above all things with my whole heart and soul, because Thou art all good and worthy of all love. I love my neighbor as myself for love of Thee, and I forgive all who have injured me and ask pardon of all whom I have injured. By the way, I forgot to tell you all that I did hear from Maria, and she's doing well. So that's good. Let us thank the Most Holy Trinity for the many graces that we receive, and offer ourselves and our sufferings up to heaven and for the souls in purgatory. O Most Holy Trinity, I most humbly thank Thee for all the favors Thou hast bestowed upon me to the present moment. It is again thanks to Thy bounty that I should live to see this day, and I desire to employ it solely in Thy service. I consecrate to Thee all my thoughts, words, actions, and sufferings of this day. Sanctify them, that there may be none that is not animated by Thy love, or that would not tend to Thy greater glory. Let us make a firm resolution to avoid evil and to do good. And let us beg of the Most Holy Trinity the graces which are necessary to us. O Most Holy Trinity, Thou knowest my weakness, and that I am unable to do anything good without the help of Thy grace. Deny me not Thy grace, proportionate to my necessities. Give me strength to avoid everything which Thou forbiddest, to practice the good which Thou hast commanded, and enable me patiently to bear all the trials which it may please Thee to send me. O Dea Matronam Nostrae, Mother of God, I place myself under Thy protection. I throw myself with confidence into the arms of Thy compassion. Be to me, O Mother of Mercy, my refuge in distress, my consolation in suffering, now and at the hour of my death. O Most Holy Trinity, as envisioned by Saint Lucia as the Most Holy Trinitarian Theophany, Deum matronam nostrae, et Deum Iesum Christum, et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, I'm heartily sorry for having offended thee, and I detest all my sins, because I dread the loss of heaven and the pains of hell. But most of all because I have offended thee, who are all good and deserving of all my love. I firmly resolve, with the help of thy grace, to confess my sins, to do penance, and to amend my life. In nomine Deum, Matronam Nostrae, Deum Iesum Christum et Deum Pacem, Spiritum Sanctum. All right. So with this new form of money, we talked about a new form of accounting had to be introduced. Double entry bookkeeping. If the bookkeeping did show that there is an inequity, then we must stop and make adjustments to restore fairness. This is where we're at now. A little late, but we found that we have to stop and make adjustments now. This change in law, forum, and type of money used in public commerce occurred around 1933, when the Federal Reserve Act, passed in 1913, actually became law. Since it was not successfully objected to during the previous 20-year period, it became accepted in 1933 under the international law of proscription. Now, it was objected to, and I think they eliminated the objectors, but just it wasn't objected to from enough of the members of the government and the people, for that matter. Our government was changed by the Federal Reserve Act, and our commerce was revised. Commerce was changed from a post-paid debt system. So after the debt was incurred, then it was paid. That's post-paid, which is what most people are used to. So commerce was changed from post-paid debt system to a prepaid debt system. It is true that a debt must be paid in order to have justice, but this is not to say that the debt cannot be prepaid. An anticipated debt can be prepaid before the debt is incurred, or it can be postpaid after it is incurred. Therefore, it was anticipated in 1933 as a remedy for citizens regarding the public debt that all public debt was declared by public policy to be prepaid. The problem concerning this was that the government never explained this to the citizens, but kept it hidden from the people in a controlled environment. Again, this is a deceptive system and setup, one that we do not want to have in our Catholic world. So the people who depended on government regulation of their commerce were kept from the knowledge of how this so-called New Deal really worked. So as a consequence, the people were robbed by those members of society who did understand how the system worked. I wonder who they are and what hats they wore. Once the government began to operate its fictions, then new considerations had to be launched. The first steps that were taken had to do with sureties and bonds. And this is really good because I was even confused about, and most people are, they're not taught what sureties are, what bonds are, what type of insurances there are, and all these, financial, commercial protections and laws and rules came about as a result of this. All just complicating just simple transactions. Just doesn't make sense. In admiralty law, everything works on insurance. Okay, let that sink in. In admiralty law, everything works on insurance. And if you think about it, You have ships, and they're sailing with mega cargo, expensive cargo, and they run into storms, which was quite common. So they needed to have insurance, a safety net. Insurance is a future indemnity, compensation for loss against injury. Okay, so just like what I mentioned, in a perfect world of commerce, we could function without insurance. But since we sometimes make mistakes, we must assure other people that we will not harm them with what we may do or are doing now. This insurance that we must provide could be in the form of an insurance policy or a bond. A bond is a future indemnity against injury. And in addition to that bond, we must provide a way to collect against that bond or insurance policy in the form of a surety, a guarantee. So the people of the United States were enrolled into an association for the mutual benefit of each other, where each member of the association cannot require any member of the group to pay his fair share of the association's debt. In other words, I will forgive the debts of other members as they forgive my debts. Hence, consideration is in the form of forgiveness of debt one to the other, as documented in the Lord's Prayer. Okay, so that tells you what kind of system the Lord wants you to have. This forgiveness of debt one to the other is a benefit received which results in taxable events, in that forgiveness is not giveness. For as in F-O-R-E, forgiveness. When we do something before it is required, it can only be a presumed event, so that when we are forgiving, F-O-R-E, forgiving, the remedy is created before the obligation to produce it. So who provided the remedy before the time that it was required? And what do we owe that benefactor when we find out who bestowed the benefit? Good question. In theology, we call it a tithe. In commerce, we call it a tax. All right. All right, I'll read this. Again, this is Protestant written. So, in theology, we pay tithes to the Creator in substance. In commerce, we pay taxes to the government in bookkeeping entries. In the earth, we harvest substance. But in commerce, we accumulate more paper debt. So we pay in kind. We tithe to the Creator in substance, and we are taxed by the government in more debt. Returning back to the decade of the 30s, we see how this forgiveness of debt system occurred. It is important to understand the difference between a shadow and a thing that produces the shadow. We receive light from a sun many miles away that gives life to everything on the earth. We don't see the light until it strikes a thing which it cannot pass through. For example, when light strikes our body, there it stops or is reflected in another direction. But if you look directly away from the sun, you will see the absence of light caused by your body as a shadow. The shadow is the proof that there is something between the shadow and the source of the light, the sun. The shadow is proof that substance exists. Without the substance, the shadow could not exist. Ever since the 30s, we have been dealing with a shadow or de facto government. We deal with the absence of light when we work with the shadow, the fictional government. This being the case, when we deal with the fiction, we are not dealing with substance, but with the absence of substance. So when we introduce substance to the fiction, problems arise. In the de facto government, when the decision was made to go to double entry bookkeeping and money of account rather than money of exchange, a bond or surety had to be created to protect the creditors of the bankruptcy. You and I. The bond that was created is an umbrella bond or super sedes bond. And sedes is spelled Sedeas with super in front of it. That is the guarantee or insurance policy called public policy, that a citizen does not have to pay a public debt with substance. That insurance policy or guarantee is House Joint Resolution 192 of 1933, which is elsewhere codified in the UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code. House Joint Resolution 192 of 1933 is the indemnity bond that covers compensation for loss provided for any liability. Since HJR 192 of 1933 is the guarantee that a debt need not be paid in substance, it becomes the payment in fact. Okay, so that resolution. Now, what is the surety for that bond? What does the insurance policy insure? What is the guarantee backing HJR 192 of 1933? The surety cannot be found in the shadow, in the fiction. It is found in the substance that creates the shadow. The surety is the people. The surety is the substance they produce by their labor. The evidence of this surety is the birth certificate. The people are insuring themselves by pledging their labor as a guarantee that their bookkeeping is correct. Since the people are the creditors or the funders of the substance that they produce by their energy, all substance publicly produced must be returned from the fiction to the creditors of the public domain, who are the people. So HJR 192 of 1933 is the prior agreement of all the members of the venture called the association known as America, that we will abide by the Lord's Prayer. Very interesting. That's why we're in such problems. There's so much I'm learning about the American government and how satanic it really is. Now, for those who may be listening who aren't sure what I'm talking about with the Lord, we're going to get to that in a future section. But you can go to the website and find out that the Lord is Satan, and you'll don't get confused there, okay? Not God Jesus Christ. When the disciples asked Jesus how to pray, again, this is the Jesus of Nazareth, not Deum Iesum Christum. When they asked how to pray, he told them, among other things, to ask the Lord to forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. Okay. And now they want to use this same process instituted now for us under HJR 192 of 1933. But this is the remedy that we have under this system at this time. Appreciation of wealth is a direct provision of God's grace. There's one of those prosperity things that's a not necessarily a Catholic understanding. All right, I think I'm going to stop. A little bit more. Since the people insure their commercial activity in the public domain by accepting liability for the public debt, the people are the creditors of the bankruptcy. All right, let's get this, make sure we understand this. The people, us, are the creditors of the bankruptcy. We're the ones who hold the value. The people are the sponsors of their credit. And this is what we have to teach people in commerce now and banking and who are actually the little people working there. They need to learn this so that when they receive these papers from us, they understand, oh, he's using that method because he understands that he is a creditor and we should process it despite what our Jewish boss tells us. The United States has, because it is law, it is public policy. The United States has been operating in a Chapter 11 bankruptcy reorganization in which the filer of the bankruptcy is the trustee and debtor in possession. So if any creditor of the bankruptcy dishonors his pledge to support the bankruptcy with his credit, the trustee will liquidate the creditor to the amount of his dishonor because he has become delinquent. The creditor had the obligation to settle the debt with his credit with the debtor, but he refused to do so when asked. Any request that the debtor makes to the creditor for more credit for the bankruptcy must be honored by acceptance. If not accepted, the creditor becomes a delinquent creditor in debt to the bankruptcy and gets liquidated by the debtor in possession instead, which is what we've been doing. We have not been accepting, our credits. So the debtor has been taking them. Whenever a debtor comes to the creditor, when a debtor comes to the creditor and says, forgive me my debts, and the creditor does not forgive the debtor by providing his credit, the Lord will call him to account for dishonoring the prepayment policy regarding debts. All right. Okay, I'm going to skip their Protestantism here. Question: what public liabilities are we required to forgive? Answer: any liability shown on a double entry bookkeeping account, which would be all corporations. If a certain matter cannot be ledgered in double entry accounting, it is most likely a private matter to be resolved not in the public domain, but in the private realm instead. A public request for adjustment will come directly to the all capital lettered name trust account, i.e., all caps John H. Smith. This is an attempt to attach a debt onto the bond of the John H. Smith Trust, all caps. To do this is a violation of public policy by failing to forgive that debt. Instead of settling nothing in the present, the attempt is made to enslave the creditor in some future event by attaching his bond. We prevent that by taking the bill that is sent to the bond and pulling it back into the present by accepting the straw man's debtor's request for credit and returning the credit to the original presenter of the bill for settlement and closure of the account. When this is done, we have defeated the scheme to enslave the creditor in some future event by his attachment of our bond. Acceptance for value ensures the proper accounting in double entry bookkeeping that needs to be done in order to adjust the account to zero. In the book Money Matters, it explains this accounting method and how it's supposed to work. And this is exactly how it is to work. So we're going to stop there today. If you're not exactly sure of what I'm talking about, look that up, HJR 192 of 1933, and listen to this again, what I said, repeat it, go back and forth. And so as a personal note, years ago when I first learned about this, I accepted for value many forms of bills, accepted for value, return for closure and settlement with my signature And again, 99% of them returned it to me, didn't know what the heck to do with it. Okay, this is, and it still happens today. Same thing, because they don't understand how to process this. And it's even the accountants are unfamiliar with this. So we have to be persistent. And one way that basically the only way that people who have been doing this has found is through the court system. And one quick example is, I did this with a credit card years ago, and I did this process. And if you know anything about the processes that they use against us, they send you 3 notices. And after the 3rd notice, then you're in final default, and then you receive a judgment, usually from a court or an arbitrator, and then they make their claim against you and take things from you. I did the same thing, only reversed it. Okay, and then they cannot respond. They don't know how to respond. So we have to use their system that they use on us back on them when they are acting in dishonor. And so I sent them 3 notices, and they, sent me dumb, letters that weren't signed, that just were, form letters that says, oh, you agreed to this, and blah, blah, blah. It's kindling wood. It's good for starting fires. There's no legal basis anywhere. And so when it came to arbitration, I sent all my signed paperwork to them saying that they never responded. And the arbitrator said, you basically win. They didn't prove their debt to you, that they claim that they want you to pay. And that worked once. And it usually works with government institutions, though. They generally know about this. They do know how to process it. And I did discharge through a state hospital. That's a story for another time. But the birth of our last child, hundreds of thousands of dollars, because he was premature. And the state accepted. I sent it to the Attorney General's office, and I didn't hear from them. I accepted for value all of the bills, sent it back to the Attorney General's office and the hospital, and they took care of it. Okay, there was nothing negative on my credit report or anything. So there's ways that it works, and we have to educate people on this. And we have to do it without fear, but we have to learn what we're doing so that we won't operate in fear. All right? And we keep trying. If one thing doesn't work, we find out what didn't work and we try again. That's where I'm at with the IRS. I got a letter yesterday saying they need 60 more days to process something that I sent in, where after the first successful one, they ignored some of the other ones. So those weren't good. But then this one in December that I sent in, now they recognized it, which was a bill of exchange. If this is successful, you can bet your boopy that I will be sharing that with you. All right, let's get started with Mass. Thank you for your time. Day will be school. et quoque apote. Oremus, O most holy Trinity, the Creator and Redeemer of all the faithful, grant to the souls of thy servants and handmaids the remission of all their sins, that they may obtain by loving prayers the forgiveness which they have always desired, who livest and reignest with thee, one divine family, forever and ever. Suscipe Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum Hanc Immaculatum Hostiam, quam ego indignus famulos tuos offeriti Deum meum vivum et verum, pro inimitabilibus peccatis et offensionibus et negligentis meis et pro omnibus circumstantibus sed pro omnibus fidelibus catholicorum vivis atque defunctis ut mihi et idis proficietat salutem. Deum qui humanae substantia dignitatem mirabilita condidis et mirabilis reformasti da nobis perius atque ministerium eis divinitatis esse consortis criminitatis nostrae, fieri notis est participes Deum Iesum Christum Filium, qui tecum vivit et reinat in unitate Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Offerimus tibi Deum calicem salutaris tuum da peccantis clementiam, ut conspectu divinae, majestatis tuae pro nostra totus mundus et salute, cum adore suavitatis ascendat. In spiritu humilitatis et in animo contrito, suscimiam te Deum Iesum Christum et sic fiat sacrificium nostrum et conspecta tu hodie, ut placiat tibi Deum Matronam nostra et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Veni sanctificator, Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, et sanctificite blata pro secundo, et accepere hoc sacrificium tuo sanctum nomini praeparatum. Suscipe Sancta Trinitas oblationem cum tibi afferimus a memoriam passionis, resurrectionis et ascensionis Deum Iesum Christum, et in honorem Deum Matronam nostra et Papa Peter Sanctorum et Istorum et Omnium Sanctorum, ut idis proficietat honorem nobis autem et salutem et ili pro nobis intercede de interim caelis, quorum memoriam agimus in tedis pedinum Christum Deum nostrum. Orate ut meum equestrum sacrificium acceptabile fiat apud Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Suscipiat Deum Iesum Christum sacrificium de manibus tuis et laudam et gloriam nomis sui ad utitatem quoque nostram totiusque ecclesiae suae sanctae. Deum vobiscum, quoque pote, sursum corda, habemus ad Deum, gratias agamus Deum nostrum, dignum et justum est. Te igito clementissimi Mater Pater Deum Materam Nostrae, Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, per Deum Iesum Christum Filium Tuum Deum Nostrae, supplices rogamus ac petimus, uti accepta habeas et sanctificas haec sanctam sacrificium idibata. In primis quae tibi offerimus pro ecclesiam tuum sanctam catholicam, quam pacificare custodire adonare et regere dimiris tot orbiterarum atque catholicae. Memento Deum famulorum catuorum. We pray for the sick and the suffering. We especially pray for Luis and CJ Cantu, Katie, Gage, RM, Neil and Earl Lively, Maria Josephina Mose, Letitia, Mindy, Clarette, Mark Jr., Robert Dosco Sr. and Jr., Robert Santa Croce, Henry, Barbara, and Benedict Santa Croce, Mr. Nobody, the Cantu and Duarte families, Michaela McLarnon and family, Sarah, Becky, Janelina, Lori, Aaron and family, Maria and the Lineweber family, the Dosco, Naita, Forbegan, Wolf, and Kane families, and all their intentions. We pray that Mr. Nobody receives the funding and strength needed to complete the first Sede Vacantis Catholic Council office at Monastery of Illinois. We pray for an end to all governmental allowance or sanctioning of abortion, transgenderism, transhumanism, child trafficking, child abuse of any kind, anywhere, place, or time. We pray for all this deception to end on genders. We pray for the establishment of a Catholic monarchy with a sound Catholic system of labor, human value, medium of exchange with no usury, and no complicated paperwork to confuse good men and women. We ask for the conversion of all sinners trapped in a state of mortal sin, especially the ignorant. We pray for the elimination of all harmful radiation waves in our air and in our homes, to shut down CERN, close all gateways and portals, send all demons that have come through them back to hell where they belong. We ask for courageous men and women who work in positions where they become knowledgeable of evil things to make them known and brought into the light. All this we ask in accordance with the most holy Trinity's divine will in mind. Et omnium circumstantium quorum tibi fides cognitas et nota devotio, pro quibus tibi afferimus veruque tibi offerunt hoc sacrificium laudis, proces visque omnibus, pro redemptione animarum suarum prospe salutis et calamitatis suae, tibi credunt vota sua aeterno Deum vivo et vero. Communicantes et memoriam honorantes in primis gloriosae semper Dei maternam nostrae, et Deum Iesum Christum, et beatorum martyrium torum Papae Sancti Petri, et Sancti Luci, et Sancti Jacinta, et Sancti Francisco, et Sancti Juan Diego, et omnium sanctorum, tuorum quorum meditis praecibusque concedas, ut in omnibus protectionis tuae munum exilio pediendum Christum Deum nostrum. Quam oblatione de Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum in omnibum, consecratum acceptabilem que fecedi dineris ut nobis corpum, et sanguinem fieri dictissimi filium tuum Deum Iesum Christum, qui pridie quam pateretur recepit panem in sanctus aqua nobis manus suas, et derivatis oculis in caelamate Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum suum omnipotentem divi gratias agens, consecravit frege didique lumnis sui dicenza, cipite et manducate ex hoc omnes. Hoc est enim corpus meum. Simini modo postquam ceremonia est accipienser hunc preclarum cadicem in sanctus aqua nobis manus suas idem tibi gratias agens Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, consecrave dedique lumnis sui dicenza, cipite et bibite ex omnes. Hic est enim calix sanguinis mei mysterium fidei, quae pro nobis et pro multis effundetur in remissionem peccatorum, aequo est cum purificeritis in me mono facetis. Unde et memores Deum nos servituis et a plebs tua sancto iustum Christum filium tuum Deum nostrae, tambe et passionis nec non et ab inferis rejectionis sed et in caelos gloriosa escensionis, offerimus preclade maiestati tuae de tuis donis actatis, supra quae propitio axere novutur spicieri digneris. Supplices te ragamus Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum iube hic per fide per manus tuum ut quod, ex hoc cataris participationis sacrosanctum Deum Filium tuum, corpus et sanguinem sensenimus, omni sanctificatione caelese gratia Dei per amor pediendum Christum Deum nostrae. We pray for those who have died, and we especially pray for Mona McCarthy, for whom this Mass is being offered. Ipsis Deum et omnibum in Christum quiscentibum locum refugere ilucis et pacis ut odorge est proclamor pediendum Christum Deum nostrum, per quem hic omnia Deum Iesum Christum semper bona creas, sanctificas, vivicas, consecratis et praestas nobis. Per ipsum et cum ipso et in ipso, est tibi Deum Maternum omnipotentium unitate Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, omnis honor et gloria. Ave Dea, maternam nostrae, gratia plena Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum tecum, Sanctam tuum in mulieribus Dei matrona nostrae matram Deum Iesum Christum, ora pro nobis peccatoribus nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Libera nos quaesimus Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, ab omnibus malis, praeteritis, praesentibus et futuris, et intercedente beata gloriosa semper Deum matram nostrae. Cum Papa Petrum Sanctorum et omnibus sanctis da propitius pacem in divus nostris. Ut ope misericordiae tuae aduiti et peccato, simus semper liberi et ab omni perturbatione securi. Periendum Deum nostrum, Iesum Christum Filium Tuum Deum nostrum, qui tecum vivit et reinat in unitate Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, per aeternam. Pax Deum Iesum Christum sit semper vobiscum, et quoque apud te, haec mixtio et consecratio corporis et sanguinis Deum Iesum Christum, fiat excipientibus nobis in ad salutem aeternam. Pax tecum, et quoque apud te. Deum Iesum Christum, qui ex voluntate Deum matronam nostrae, cooperante Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, per mortem tuam unum vivificasti. Libera me per hoc sacro sanctum corpus et sanguinum tuum ab omnibus iniquitatibus meis, et universis malis, et fac me tuis semper in handare mandatis, et nunquam separare permittas. Qui cum eodem Deum matronam nostrae, Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, vivis regnum aeternam. Perceptio corporis tui Deum Iesum Christum corrego indinius sumere praesimum non mihi proveniat, in judicium condonationem sed pro tu pietate prosit mihi ad tutum mentis corporis, et ad me delam percipiendam, qui vivis reinas cum Deum matronam nostrae, in unitate Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Panem caelestem accipiem et nomen Deum Iesum Christum in vocabo. Deum matronam nostrum non sundinius, ut et sutetum meis in tanti verbos napatronum mea. Deum Iesum Christum non sundinius, ut et sutetum meis in tanti verbos napatronum mea. Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum non sundinius, ut et sutetum meis in tanti verbos napatronum mea. Corpus Deum nostrum Iesum Christum custodiet anima mea. Quid retribuum Deum Iesum Christum pro omnibus quae retribuit mihi, calicem salutaris accipiam in nomen Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum invocabo. Laudans invocabo Deum matronam nostrae et ab inimicis meis avocero. Sanguis Deum nostrum Iesum Christum custodiet anima mea. Quod ore subsimus Deum Iesum Christum purem et capiamus et immunere et apud fiat nobis remedium sempiternum. Corpus tuum Deum Iesum Christum quod somse sanguis quam petavi et heriat, scelibus meis et praesta ut in me non remaniat, scelerum macula quam purat sancta reficerunt sacramenta. Deum vobiscum, et quoque apud te. Oremus. May the prayer of thy suppliants profit the souls of thy servants and handmaids, we beseech thee, O most holy Trinity, that thou mayest free them from all sins and make them sharers in thy redemption, who livest and reignest with thee, one divine family, forever and ever. Deum vobiscum, quoque apud te, ite miseas, Deum gratia. Placeat tibi sancta Trinitam obsequium servitutis mea per praesta ut sacrificum coroculis tuae majestatis in nos alteritibus et acceptabile, mique omnibus pro quibus irid optoliciti miserante propitiabile per Christum Deum nostrum. Sanctificat vos omnipotens Deum Matronam et Filium et Spiritum Sanctum, Deum Matronam Nostrae, Deum Iesum Christum et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Gratias. Most Holy Trinity, I believe, I venerate, I hope, and I love thee. I beg of thee pardon for those who do not believe, do not venerate, do not hope, and do not love thee. Most Holy Trinity, Deum Matronam Nostrae, Deum Iesum Christum et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. I venerate thee profoundly, and I offer to thee the most precious body, blood, soul, and divinity of Deum Iesum Christum present here in reparation for the outrages, sacrileges, and indifferences by which he himself is offended, and through the infinite merits of his most sacred heart and immaculate heart of Deum Matronam Nostrae, I beg of thee the conversion of poor sinners. In nomine Deum Matronam Nostrae, Deum Iesum Christum et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Gracias. Good day. Thank you for being here. Hello. It is a great day. Please, you have a great day as well. It is my pleasure, CJ. All the best to you. And please, everybody, pray for her special intention as well as for Greg. Seems like we're going through some changes, everybody. So trials, changes, joys, and sorrows. Hang in there. That's all I can say. And pray your rosary 150. All right. Please have a great day. Please sanctify all those you meet, and we'll see you tomorrow, same time.